Continuing on, Malaysia grew at the quickest pace in more than 2 decades in 2022 as pent-up demand helped the nation take the mantle of fastest growing economy in Asia, even if the title is likely to be short-lived. Bank Negara Malaysia or BNM and the Department of Statistics showed gross domestic product rose 8.7% last year, the highest level since the year of 2000, and that compares with the median estimate of 8.6% year-on-year growth in a Bloomberg survey and aligns with official expectations. So to help us unfold what does this figure say about Malaysia, joining us on the line is Dr. Shankar Nambia, Senior Research Fellow at the Malaysian Institute of Economic Research. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
All right, thank you for joining us this morning. All right, Doctor, 8.7% goes to Malaysia GDP last year, above the forecast, and 7% growth from a year earlier. So what's your take on this, Doctor?
Of course, it was extremely happy state of affairs. That there was considerable pent-up demand, as you just mentioned. Exports were extremely good. Trade figures were very encouraging. Exports were very good, and the figures that were coming out from firms were also very encouraging. With all of these put together, I think that explains why we had such good growth figures, 8.7%. And on top of that, of course, domestic demand did a lot to push the growth figures up. There was a great deal of consumption expenditure that was being generated. The EPF withdrawals, I think, helped people wade through tough times. On the flip side, of course, that there is the danger of what could likely happen with regard to people as they go into retirement. But looking at it from a very short-term perspective, it certainly did have an impact on pushing up growth for 2022.
Dr. Nambia, what are some of the downside risks that we should watch out for this year?
I'm quite optimistic about this year. I think too much has been made about recession this year, both nationally as well as globally, and I think I did refer to that on a previous interview on this channel. I think there's been too much of pessimism. Of course, I do think that growth will tend to slow down, but it might not be as drastic as has been made out to be. Coming now to downside risks, I think number one on my list would be what's happening on the electronics sector, especially demand for semiconductors. I think that will have some impact on the electronics industry, which is very export-oriented in this country. And then you have the geopolitical concerns, Russia, Ukraine, possible US-China conflicts, what could possibly happen in Taiwan, and to what extent China would open up and how smoothly it would open up, what kind of vibrance we could expect from China. It's not terribly clear, but my guess is it would help. China's opening up is going to help us. Another possible cause for concern would be how the Fed manages to combat inflation and to what extent it would be able to achieve its 2% target. If it goes as planned, then I suppose starting from the second half of the year, we should see some moderation with regard to the Fed's rate hike policy.
Doctor, we're well aware that Belanjawan 2023 is coming very soon. So maybe you can share what are the key components that should be inserted within the Belanjawan talks to boost our GDP this year?
I think the biggest source of concern and would be how the government manages to handle increasing revenue. I think if it has a good policy on that, if it manages to handle that well, then we have a great year going ahead. There have also been policy statements that the Prime Minister and Finance Minister has made with regard to targeted subsidies, and that definitely is a step in the right direction. There's been too much dilly-dallying on that for a long time, and I think the Finance Minister has got his fingers on the issue. I think we have to do, or the budget has to address the question of building investor confidence. That I think is another crucial area that will have to be looked at.
Doctor, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts on this, how Malaysia GDP grew by 8.7%. It's the highest since 2022 years, and helping us understand deeper on how Malaysia has beat expectation regarding the GDP last year. Again, we say thank you very much to Dr. Shankar Nambia, the Senior Research Fellow at the Malaysian Institute of Economy Research.